guys, I'm Anna.
And I'm Brian.
And we are
Those Annoying Vegans.
And we are here having a post-Thanksgiving mukbang.
That's right.
With some Thanksgiving leftovers.
Oh yeah. We got a tofurkey loaf with tofurkey stuffing in the middle. And right next to that is our Stuffin muffin. A singular Stuffin muffin. And this is actually the brown gravy, the chunky brown gravy version of our gravy that we showed you guys how to make last week.
Yeah, we just didn't add soy milk.
And then this is some green bean casserole that our friends brought over. And mashed potatoes, of course. And half of a Thanksgiving pastry that two of our other friends brought over for our Friendsgiving on Friday.
And that Arya ate the top of.
Yeah. So today we wanted to debunk a video from Alltime10s on YouTube. It's called The Top 10 Ways Vegans Are Ruining the World. Here's the thing about Alltime10s. It's all clickbait. They're not a news source.
No.
None of this should be taken seriously.
I've done voiceover for top 10 videos on YouTube. Top 10 uses for Coke. Come on.
We wouldn't normally even bring you guys something like this, but we thought it's Thanksgiving weekend. We wanted to have a little bit of fun, and the unfortunate reality is that Alltime10s, they have over 5 million subs, and there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this video, and possibly people will be taking it as a serious news source and not the clickbaity YouTube material that it is.
The funny thing is, too, that they also have a video that's a top 10 reasons that might make you want to go vegetarian.
Not a consistent message. Alltime10's YouTube channel is not about promoting veganism or not promoting veganism, clearly, since they have two conflicting videos.
But they knew that there would be a lot of triggered vegans on there.
Oh my goodness, so
and
triggered.
That's what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
And by triggered, I mean just vegans calling out the BS.
Yeah, moderately informed.
Yeah.
And somewhat intelligent. Oh yeah, we'll start eating. Is there anything better than mashed potatoes?
So let's start with reason 10 that vegans are ruining the world. Mind you, 2% of the world population is ruining the world.
We're small but mighty.
Number 10. Environmental footprint. Eating lettuce is over 3 times worse in terms of greenhouse gas emissions than eating bacon.
Oh, everyone's favorite bacon replacement, lettuce.
This is because lettuce has so few calories, around 15 calories a leaf.
Yeah, so they're comparing bacon to lettuce on a caloric basis. They're saying that bacon is more calorically dense than lettuce. So bacon is more efficient because calories are all that matter. Just calories. The more calories you eat, the healthier you are.
What's funny is that we actually found an article that came out shortly after the study started making headlines and misconstruing the information. And this article literally says, multiple headlines Tuesday suggested that a new study determined vegetarianism to be more harmful to the environment than eating meat, flying in the face of previous research. But the researchers behind this new study say that's a total mischaracterization of what they found. They said exactly what you said, which is that no vegetarian is going to replace calorie for calorie of pork with calorie for calorie of lettuce. And also, they cherry-picked the data too, because in the study, researchers also found that kale, broccoli, rice, potatoes, spinach, soy, and wheat all ranked lower than pork in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. The study actually compared 3 different diet scenarios. One was a diet that reduced caloric intake, but with a mix of food types representing the average American diet. 2 was a diet that did not reduce calories, but included the proportions of food types recommended by the USDA. And 3 was a diet that reduced calories and included the proportions of food types recommended by the USDA. And neither of those were even vegetarian. In fact, 2 out of the 3 ranked really poorly in terms of greenhouse gas emissions because they accounted for the fact that the USDA actually recommends that we increase our intake of seafood, which is horrible for GHG.
Not to mention the old go-to fact that Cowspiracy illustrated that animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions worldwide than all of transportation combined. Just on a more personal note, I don't really eat that much lettuce. Are they assuming that vegans are eating all the lettuce? As though paleo bros don't wrap their burgers in lettuce because they're afraid of the scary carbs. in the bun. I probably eat less lettuce now as a vegan than I did as a non-vegan.
That's the other thing. This is assuming that only vegans eat lettuce, even though vegans make up 2% of the world population.
We're eating all the lettuce.
Someone would need to eat 2 whole iceberg lettuces to even get close to the equivalent calorie intake of 2 rashers of smoked bacon, around 200 calories.
I had to look up what a rasher was, and a rasher is a thin strip of bacon. 2 strips of bacon aren't 200 calories. By the way, they're 100 calories. And in order to get your 100 calories from a plant food, you would have to eat a banana. A banana will get you 100 calories. Or a third of a cup of oatmeal, or a half a cup of black beans, or sure, I guess an entire head of lettuce if you want to eat.
If lettuce is your thing?
So this means you can swap the salad for a bacon baguette and feel less guilty.
No, you can't.
Number 9, crazy hormones. Soybeans naturally contain anti-nutrients such as phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens can mimic estrogen in the body, causing a chain reaction of hormone imbalances in males and females.
Okay, so we're going the soy hormone route here.
Again. It's okay. We can explain it again.
Also, this is a perfect illustration of how little research I believe they put into this video by pronouncing it phytoestrogen. It's phytoestrogen. I even Googled phytoestrogen pronunciation. I could not find phytoestrogen as an acceptable pronunciation, and it's kind of like if we saw a video called The Top 10 Ways to Avoid Traffic in the Los Angeles Area, and one of them was, want to avoid the 405 South traffic jam? Take Sepulveda Boulevard. You're like, do you mean Sepulveda? Do you live here? Do you know what you're talking about? Or did you just do a cursory Google search and just read shit? Phyto, a prefix meaning of or from plants. So it is plant estrogen. And it has a similar structure to estrogen, but it is not the same thing as estrogen, hence the prefix phyto.
Although the isoflavones are classified as phytoestrogens, they are very different from the hormone estrogen. And in fact, sometimes isoflavones will have effects opposite to those of estrogen. Cholesterol, found in animal foods, raises blood cholesterol. Phytosterols, found in plant foods, lowers blood cholesterol levels. Similar chemical structures, opposite physiological effects.
It's crazy. Things can sound the same and even look the same, but be different. I know that's mind-blowing.
Hard to believe.
Too much soy in a man's diet has been linked to gynecomastia, male breast enlargement.
What's funny is that even if you were to lean all the way sideways and Google soy causes gynecomastia, there are actually no sources that confirm this. In fact, you'll find articles on Men's Fitness and Livestrong that say specifically that there have been no conclusive studies that have linked soy consumption to gynecomastia. In fact,
there are 2 case reports describing 2 individuals in the literature indicating that excessive amounts of soy can possibly lead to some feminizing effects. The vegan was consuming 12 to 20 servings of soy per day, and the older man was consuming 3 liters of soy milk per day. If you consume that much cow's milk, that much beef, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So this really doesn't provide any meaningful insight into the health effects of soy. It's due to consuming a ridiculous amount of soy.
His levels of estrone and estradiol were 4 times the upper limit of the reference range.
And let's pretend like we didn't do all of this research to debunk this nonsense. Let's just look at the world with a reasonable pair of eyes and say, look at all the men that you know that have man boobs. How many of them are vegan? You guys can check out Mike the Vegan's video on it. It's very in-depth.
For women, studies on young female rats suggest that soy is a contributing factor in premature menstruation.
Humans aren't rats.
Nope, not last time I checked.
The more you know.
Although animal studies are part of the scientific literature, they really carry relatively little weight, or certainly they should carry relatively little scientific weight.
There was another study by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that found that women who consumed 60 grams of soy protein experienced hormonal changes. 60 grams is not a commonly consumed amount. It's like consuming 36 ounces. Where's my water bottle? It's like consuming this much soy milk every day for a month. You have these studies that are looking for links And they find these links when you overdo it, just like with anything. A 2011 study concluded that there is in fact an association between increased dairy consumption and increased risk of early menarche, which is puberty, which is getting your period way too early.
Because mammalian estrogen is different than phytoestrogen.
Number 8, California drought.
I wonder what's causing that drought in California. Couldn't be climate change due to global greenhouse gas emissions, could it?
Couldn't be the miles and miles and miles of dairy factory farms.
Here's one on the right. We're passing one on the left.
Tom France keeps a running count.
And there's another one just over here on the left, too.
He says dairy farms have taken over his farming community in the San Joaquin Valley.
That's 10 within what I call smelling distance of my home.
It's not just the smell from these open effluent pits, it's also the methane gas that they put off. 15% of California's greenhouse gas emissions come from dairy.
Probably not at all. No.
Take a trip to any supermarket these days and you'll find a whole bunch of plant milk alternatives, including everyone's favorite, almond milk. But the super healthy nuts, mostly grown in drought-hit California, need millions of liters of water to be produced. On average, it takes around 5 liters of water to grow 1 almond.
Almond milk can contain as little as 2% almonds. That's like a handful. That's like 30 almonds per half gallon of almond milk.
So if there's 30 almonds in a half gallon and you've got 5 liters per almond, that's 150 liters of water to get a half gallon of almond milk. Now let's compare that to cow's milk, shall we? A half gallon of cow's milk requires more than 500 gallons of water to be produced, and 500 gallons is nearly 2,000 liters. So you've got 150 liters versus 2,000 liters. I'm not sure which is larger or smaller. I'm bad with math. That's not to mention the 2,500 gallons of water to produce a pound of beef, which is 9,400 liters of water for beef. They always do this. They always go after almonds.
Yeah,
like almonds are water intensive.
Without realizing the bigger problem.
California produces 82% of the world's almonds, and this all-year-round crop guzzles close to 10% of the area's agricultural water supply.
Well, you know what takes up half of California's water? Meat and dairy.
Again, that's assuming that only vegans consume almonds as well.
I haven't heard a single thing on this video that's specific to vegans yet. But maybe we'll get there.
Number 7, blood guacamole. Production of the crop that earned Mexico more than $1.5 billion in exports in 2016 is concentrated in the state of Michoacan, and much of it is controlled by a drug cartel known as the Caballeros Templarios, or the Knights Templar. They've infiltrated the avocado sector by making farmers and landowners give up a percentage of their income, taxing all fruit sold and land owned, and even murdering those who refuse to play by the rules. And this has resulted in the term blood guacamole.
I've genuinely never heard that term.
This is actually true. However, they are missing about half of the story. Michoacan is probably the largest avocado producer in the world. It also happens to be the home of this very dangerous drug cartel called the Knights Templar. These guys expanded and began infiltrating just about every economic sector of Michoacan, and that's not just limited to avocados. There's limes, there's mining. They started taking over small family-owned farms, and yes, violence, murder, rape, that's all part of the story. Then you have the locals who started forming a vigilante group and eventually teamed up with the police, and they started driving the Knights Templar out, giving families their land back. And as of September 2017, the last leader of the Knights Templar was killed. So the remaining members dispersed and joined this other drug cartel called the Nueva Familia Michoacana. They are having turf wars now with yet another cartel called the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, or CJNG. It's always helpful to really look into where your food comes from. Fair trade chocolate, fair trade coffee, locally grown, organic. Our fight is really not with these families who have lost family members and friends because of the violence that these drug cartels have brought on their communities. These families subsist on their farms.
Also, guacamole is or is not something that's consumed only by vegans. Oh, it's not. Okay. Got it.
Number 6, cancer and heart disease. The long-term vegetarian diet can alter human DNA, raising the risk of cancer and heart disease. Populations who have had a primarily vegetarian diet for generations were far more likely to carry DNA, which makes them susceptible to inflammation. The mutations occurred, according to scientists, to make it easier for vegetarians to absorb essential fatty acids from plants.
First of all, key word, vegetarian.
Yes.
Vegetarian.
Well, he started with vegan and vegetarian, and then later said primarily vegetarian.
I don't know know why these two get
Which-
lumped together. Vegetarian is not vegan. It is
No.
actually very, very, very different from veganism.
Yes.
Because it still includes dairy and
Eggs.
and sometimes fish.
You're never going to see a big difference in health between someone on a meat-based diet and someone on a vegetarian diet, because when you are a vegetarian, you still eat liquid meat, i.e. milk and cheese and butter, and then you eat chicken periods, i.e. eggs. Cheese is the #1 source of saturated fat in the United States, and eggs are the #1 source of cholesterol.
And seafood. Shrimp
Yeah.
is super high in cholesterol too.
Yeah, and fish can be really fatty. I don't know why people think that by showing a study about vegetarians, they can debunk something about vegans.
Yeah.
However, this has the knock-on effect of boosting the production of arachidonic acid, which is linked to cancer. These days, spending on cancer medicine totals around $100 billion worldwide, with the cost expected to exceed $150 billion by 2020. But if veganism continues in popularity, it could cause these healthcare costs to increase further.
Saying vegans have higher rates of cancer than people who eat a standard American diet. I
Where
would
are they
love
getting this
to
from?
get that source.
Number 5, nutrient deficiency. There are only some nutrients that humans can consume by eating plants, and others that they can only consume by eating animals.
That's not
True.
true
At all.
at all. If what you're saying is that you have to eat animals to get certain nutrients, how are vegans not only alive, but
Thriving.
healthier and outliving non-vegans? We must be Kryptonians or something. This notion that you have to eat meat in order to get necessary stuff, and there are millions of vegans around the globe not eating meat. That should just be blatantly obvious.
One vital nutrient that vegans can't get in a meat-free diet is vitamin B12.
How many times have we said it? B12 is not made by an animal. It's made by bacteria.
Sweetie agrees.
We live in a very sterile world. We filter our water, we chlorinate it, we shower every day, we wash our vegetables really well. We don't eat dirt and feces like we used to, and so you need to supplement B12. This B12 thing is getting
Yeah.
so old.
Yeah.
So old.
It's the next older
next
thing
protein.
next to protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
90% of all B12 produced is given to livestock, so you could just take it yourself.
According to Dr. Frankie Phillips, a registered dietitian with the British Dietetic Association, vegans are less strong than meat eaters as they have weaker muscles due to a lower intake of amino acids, which generate muscle mass.
Vegans are less strong than non-vegans. Again, a disagreement from the crowd.
So these guys,
There you go.
they're not strong at all.
Certainly not world record holders, that's for sure. Saying that vegans aren't as strong as non-vegans, it doesn't mean anything. If you go to the gym a lot and you lift a lot of weights, you will get stronger. If you don't, you won't.
She said that this might be due to increased fatigue due to lower iron levels, weaker muscles because of a lower intake of amino acids that generate muscle mass, and the risk of bones fracturing because of less calcium in the diet.
But that's not an argument against veganism. That's an argument against a poor diet.
Number 4, mental health. In 2014, a controversial study by the Medical University of Graz concluded that those who adopt a vegan or vegetarian diet were ill more often, more susceptible to physical and mental disorders, and generally had a lower quality of life than people who eat meat.
I could have sworn I heard vegetarian.
Well, not only that, the study was a survey that was given to 330 people who self-identified as vegetarian. The study provides no proof that vegetarians are in poorer health than meat eaters.
Oh, that's so weird.
This was an Austrian survey which simply took a group of 330 people put into a general vegetarian category. Some in this category were not exclusively vegetarian.
By the way, not exclusively vegetarian is code for not vegetarian.
They were matched with groups of people from 3 carnivorous categories ranked in terms of total meat consumption. It also states that the study cannot prove cause and effect because it was taken at a single point in time. Without a clear definition of the categories being given, people were asked whether they considered their diet to be vegan, vegetarian, including milk and or eggs, vegetarian, including fish and or milk and or eggs, carnivorous but rich in fruits and vegetables, carnivorous but less rich in meat, carnivorous rich in meat. And people are supposed to determine this for themselves.
They're not being isolated and having their diet controlled. It's just whatever they say.
Very general categories of disease were used. The researchers questioned the presence of 18 specific diseases, but these do not appear to have been medically verified and seem to have just been classed as being present or absent without having any idea of what this means, whether the person actually met diagnostic criteria for this condition, how long they'd had it, how severe it was, whether it was being treated or not.
Basically, it was a show, and no conclusive results can be drawn from it whatsoever.
330 people who had to self-identify their diet and their illnesses.
How you feeling? What do you eat? All right. There we go.
Number 3, starving South America. Not long ago, quinoa was just an obscure Peruvian grain that you could only buy in Whole Food shops. But these days, opting for a quinoa salad has detrimental effects in the fields of Peru and Bolivia, where the grain is farmed. The hike in prices due to its increasing popularity in the Western world push the very people that farm quinoa out of their own marketplace.
Again, non-vegans also eat quinoa. But there's also the fact that two researchers, Mark Bellamar, an agricultural economist at the University of Minnesota, and Seth Gitter, another economist at Towson University in Maryland, they went to Peru. They split 22,000 households into 3 groups: those who grow and eat quinoa, those who eat it but do not grow it, and those who neither grow nor eat quinoa. All 3 showed a clear rise in their welfare, measured as the total value of goods consumed as the price of quinoa rose, which makes sense. They're making more money, so they're able to afford better food and take better care of themselves.
I don't understand how the demand for something going up wouldn't result in the cost of something going up and wouldn't result in higher profits for the people producing the thing that is more desirable.
I'm actually stumped as to where they got that information, because this research directly contradicts it. It reflected an increase in living standards in Peru. It even says that at the height of the boom, the people who benefited the most were the quinoa growers. The working paper does not mince words. Quote, "The claim that rising quinoa prices were hurting those who had traditionally produced and consumed it is patently false."
All right.
Number 2, children's health. Nutritionists have warned that infants who follow the diet are often leaner and smaller than those who eat meat.
Vegan children are leaner and smaller? Goodness forbid.
Translation: children who eat a vegan diet are less overweight than children who eat meat and dairy.
Professor Mary Futrell of University College London said this is often the result of a lack of nutrients such as vitamin B12, calcium, zinc, and high-quality protein. She further warned that this type of diet could lead to irreversible cognitive damage, and in the worst cases, claimed it can even result in death.
So again, we found the article. It's in the Evening Standard. Nutritionists have shown that vegan diets can be very healthy, but if they're not followed properly, then they can cause health problems, which could be said about any diet ever.
Any diet ever that includes chicken nuggets and ice cream and copious amounts of candy and soda, which seems to be the way America has been heading for a while when it comes to child health.
And it's funny that they even bring up child health and childhood obesity at all, because you know who's really concerned with childhood obesity? Dr. Frankie Phillips.
According to Dr. Frankie Phillips,
She penned an article in June citing that the World Health Organization said that obesity is a serious global public health challenge. The World Health Organization has a few things to say about red meat and processed meat too. And if you check out Dr. Frankie Phillips' recipe recommendations, she actually recommends that children eat eggs and dairy. Yet she's concerned about childhood obesity. Yeah, 70% saturated fat in cheese and the mammalian hormones. Super great for children.
vitamin B12, calcium, zinc, and high-quality protein.
Is the assumption that protein from milk or meat is higher quality than protein from plants?
That sounds so strange.
I wonder how Patrick Baboumian gets all his protein. It's not high quality.
Number 1, cashew burn. Cashews are the most eaten nut in the US and Europe, and are a popular staple in the vegan diet because they can be processed to make vegan cheese. However, in India, where more than 60% of the cashews are processed, it's another story entirely. A cashew has 2 layers of hard shell, between which are caustic substances, cardol and anacardic acid, which can cause serious burns. As a result, many workers in the cashew industry have permanent damage to their hands from this corrosive liquid.
Again, cashews, the food that only vegans eat.
Oh wait, they said that it was the most consumed nut in the US and Europe.
And we know that most of the US and Europe is vegan.
Totally a vegan problem.
Again, guys, research where your food is coming from. Try to get fair trade food. It is true that harvesting cashews seems to be a problem in India and Vietnam.
Factories don't routinely provide gloves.
There was that global vegan glove removal initiative for all cashew factories. So that makes total sense. Yeah, you should definitely blame vegans for no gloves in the cashew factory.
Yeah.
I don't even know what this argument is.
This article that they drew from doesn't even have a word about vegans. It
No.
says at the end, what is a conscientious cashew lover to do? Cashew lover? Sainsbury's sells fair trade cashews. Granted, they are a little more expensive, but worth it if you don't want to support that kind of industry. Not to mention, let's talk about slaughterhouse workers.
They too are mistreated by the factories and have health problems and mental problems and work in a horrific environment. Oh, but factory farms, that's not a vegan thing, so we need to find a vegan thing.
Yeah.
That we can tack onto our top 10 video for YouTube. We are Alltime10s, and we aim to bring you the most informative, fascinating, and engaging top 10 videos on YouTube. 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
So guys, thanks for watching. We hope you liked this video, and if you did, give us a thumbs up. That lets us know that you like what we're talking about. And if you didn't like it, thumbs down is cool too.
And if you haven't already,
Subscribe.
We will bring you something new every week. And as always, thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon. You guys are the best. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for the support. And if you would like to donate to our Patreon page as well, that link is in the description below too.
And if you haven't checked out our Etsy store, we have some cool shirts up there. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and leave your comments and thoughts below. Always remember to use sources. Please use sources. If you just have blanket statements with no sources, we can't discuss anything in a productive manner. And keep ruining the world, vegans.
Bye. Boom!
It worked!
Ha-ha!
Guys, we got a little remote for our camera, which is awesome. And this makes our lives so much easier because now we don't have to get up and start and stop and
Possibly jostle the camera.
and trip over wires.
Yeah.
This little thing.
Easy peasy.
Ready?
Oh.
Boosh.